Hey everybody, I'm Heather and I'm a glassblower with the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen, and today I'm going to show you how to make a decorative part of glass. There's so much that we can do in glassworking, glassblowing. Sometimes we make parts, components that become part of other larger things, so that's kind of what I'm going to show you today. So a while back I made some tubing out of individual glass rods, and it looks like this. So it's individual glass rods like these, and I sandwich them together in clear tubing and then use a torch to heat it up and melt it down. And it's a pretty involved process, but I end up with material that I can use in parts later. So let's take a look at some lined tubing. So this particular technique does have a specific name. You could call it wigwag, you could call it switchback, whatever you want to call it. I will turn these lines back and forth all the way down until I run out of material, and then later I can cut it in half again and turn it into something more decorative. I can change those patterns by blowing that entire section or piece of glass. Here I'm just twisting the end, I know, to make some lines. Go back and forth. So I'm just bending the lines, that's really it. So that piece that I just showed you, I can continue to manipulate that design, changing the optics, creating all different kinds of patterns, and then I can then take that final design and include it in a larger piece, or you know, say a piece of jewelry. I can make it a focal piece. I can incorporate it with another glass bubble and do more things. So that's why it's called a section. It's really just a decorative section of glass. Getting this really hot. Just gave it a little twist. Let it cool down a little bit. And go back into the flame. Getting it really hot. I have different colors of glass in here, so all the glass tends to heat up at a different rate, cool down at a different rate, behaves differently. And it does feel a little bit like putty in my hands. It feels a little wobbly. I'd like it to all move the same way at the same time, but it doesn't. And I just keep on going down the line, heating up, twisting. My hands are actually twisting in the opposite direction every other time, so I really have to keep track of which way are my hands turning, and then which way did my hands stop to twist it. Because if I don't get it right, then I throw off the design. I could untwist it, but that is tricky sometimes. Going back in. Getting it really hot. Coming out, get a little twist. Letting it cool down a little bit. And the last one. There we go. And if I want, I can go back in and I can clean up these, make them a little bit more tight or loose or whatever I want to do. Or I can just say, good enough, I like it. This one over here, I think I might heat that one up and just give that a little touch up, try to get it in line a little bit more. Sometimes the first one gets off to a rough start. Yeah, that's better. Just a little tweak, a little heat and a little tweak, that's all you need. And now I will take the tube in my left hand and get rid of it. Because I no longer need it. And I'll just clean up. Actually, I don't need this torch anymore. Wow, that's loud, huh? And then I'll come over here. I just clean this up. Trying to get that as close as I can. Trying to trim off the excess. So the next step is to start heating this up and melting it in, turning it into a ball, a shape that I can then continue to manipulate the design of, or I can use it as it is. Hey everybody, it's me, Heather. I'm a glassblower with the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen, and today I'm going to show you a continuation of a demo that I did. This is all to make decorative components that can be used in a much larger piece of glass. So yesterday I started off with some lined tubing like this that I made, and these are this lined tubing is made of individual colored glass rods, and then I took that and I turned it into this wavy design here. So I have taken half of that and have put it into this ball shape, and from that ball shape I will continue the design. So that's what we'll see today. See inside my kiln. So I used this marble mold to help me get this really nice, round, crispy shape. And it's really important to get the work even on center so that when you move on to the next step, everything translates well. So I'm going to do a technique. It's really called montage technique, and it was made in the 50s by a glass artist. The idea is that we take those line tubing sections and then twist it up, make it wavy, and then instead of keeping it like this, I'll actually switch the axis. So I would put a tube here, and that's what I will show you today. So I heat this up a little bit, and then I get ready to pop a little hole. Ooh. What I'm waiting for is this little bubble to emerge, so I'm heating evenly, going really slow, so I can try to blow it out as neat and on center as I can. Make the hole a little wider. I'm using a blow hose so I can blow while I work in the flames. Reaming the hole a little bit bigger so that I can attach another blow tube. And now I'm going to take this hollow ball off of this blow tube and get ready to put it onto the other blow tube. Try to get that on center. It's tough. Keep that connection warm. Heating up just enough at the end so that I can take off the tube in my left hand. I need to clean up the end of this. So now I'll use this tool called a soffietta to puff out the end of this just a little bit before we put that blow tube on. Do that one more time. Kind of a sketchy move because this piece could totally fall off. So that's just going to help get the shape back to where I want it without having to do a ton of extra work after I put blow tube on. So now it's time to connect. Woohoo! And it's on. It wasn't the greatest connection, so I'll just push it on a little bit. Kind of keep it on center. There, so just a little pause to let it settle back on center. And then I'll reconnect my blow hose and shape this a little bit more. So by switching the axis, we totally changed the design, the orientation. So we're going to make this design a whole lot more interesting. So once it cools down a little bit, you'll be able to see how that pattern has changed. So remember, went from these vertical lines to these wavy lines to this. Totally changed the orientation. So let's keep going. So I'll heat this up, blow into it, and shape it. Back in the heat, there we go. So now it's got a nice shape. Nice design. Now we can use this in something else. So I'll just take this off so that we can use it in the next step. bit more extra clear left there on the end than I had wanted. That's okay, clean it up. Peeling it away. Clean up the hole. And there we go. Give that a little heat and then stick it back in the kiln. So now we'll put it in the kiln to let it evenly heat for a little bit. Hey everybody, I'm Heather and I'm a glassblower, a member with the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen, and today I am going to show you the continuation of a decorative component that can be used in other larger pieces of glass. First, I started off with this line tubing that I made with individual rods of colored glass sandwiched between two tubes. I made this years ago, but I can use a little bit and it goes a long way. So we started there and I moved these lines back and forth under the heat to come out with a bubble and a design kind of like this. This is a different piece of line tubing. And then look inside the kiln. We ended up with this. And I changed the axis. So now this piece will become part of this bubble here. Joining two bubbles is a technique called encalmo in the Venetian glassblowing tradition. So let's put this together. So first we'll take this one out and we'll get this a little bit warm. And actually I think I might widen this hole just a little bit. So I use my jacks, give these a little heat, and a little bit of beeswax. Heat up the opening so that I can open it just a little bit more. There we go. Opened it just enough. Shape still looks good. But now I need to open my decorative piece a little bit more, so that the openings are kind of similar. In size. This one's a little tricky, don't want to lose the design. Also don't want the piece to fall off the punty or my handle. seems about the right size, so let's check it out. Yeah, that's gonna fit great. Okay, so we put this one in here. Close up the kiln. It is super hot. 1065 degrees Fahrenheit coming out at me. It's pretty warm. Hook up my blow tube. And I just give this a little bit more heat. And now I will attach this decorative piece. So the Encolmo method allows us to, or enables us to, attach two bubbles to create a larger bubble, to create a more interesting bubble. And we can just keep doing this over and over and over and over and make something as big as we want. Get that a little hotter. Not quite aligned. Try it again. This is pretty typical. This is how this goes. You want to make sure you get it lined up really well. There we go. Now I have to fuse these seams together, make sure that those are nice and smooth. Start blowing this out. Heat a little, blow a little. Heat a little, blow a little. Work that seam in a little bit. And once the seam is worked in, then we can start shaping. Alright, so we've successfully joined that bubble, that decorative bubble. And pretty soon the image is going to start to emerge. But before we get to that step, just need to work on the shape here, the body here, make sure it's nice and smooth. I'll start to heat the whole thing up, shaping it, blowing it. Always keeping the heat in there. This glass cools off really fast. I use borosilicate, so it's very stiff. Like Pyrex bakeware that you might have in your kitchen. So you can see it takes a little bit of time and heat, you know, just going back and forth, letting gravity shape things, using the breath very lightly and evenly. So from here, I can keep going. I could turn this into a disc. I could turn this more into a sphere. I can add more components onto this. All the colors look kind of the same right now because it is so hot. This flame is probably over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Really, really hot. So on a hot day like today, you know, it's 90. I got the kiln going. That's at 1,067 degrees Fahrenheit. I got this 3,000 plus degree flame. Yeah, it's pretty hot. So I'll put this back in the kiln and I'll figure out what to do with it next.